Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Secondary Heroes podcast. It's time to talk Loki, the brand new Marvel Disney Plus show. It's season 1, episode 1, Glorious Purpose. This is your host, Trevor, and joining me as usual is...
Hey guys, it's Prague.
I am being mischievous with gods. This is DeLorean Wolfgang. Mischievous. Because he's the god of mischief? I don't know, man.
I like it. It's good. It works.
How do you be mischievous with gods anyways?
I don't know. But
well, that was a question that fell flat. Well, how are you guys doing?
Good. I'm excited. This is the third show from Marvel.
So third show from excited. Marvel and Disney Plus. Well, Disney Plus / Marvel, I guess.
Yeah. So excited.
And after the last two shows, are we gonna even like this?
We'll see.
I suppose we'll see.
I wonder if we will.
Oh boy!
Only time will tell.
Wow, this is gonna be a non-stop thing for Prague, ladies and gentlemen. So
I apologize.
Well, cool guys. So we're talking Loki. What should we give the audience what it's about?
So if you are new and you've never heard of Loki, or if you've never heard of the Secondary Heroes and you're like, who are these guys? Why do I care about them? We offer secondary takes on what's trending in pop culture. In this case, we've been doing all the Marvel Disney shows, and so we're going to jump right in with Loki, which has a lot of potential because it deals with time. The last time we saw Loki, in case you, hopefully, again, spoiler, Loki dies in Infinity War, or Endgame, the beginning, yeah, so he dies in Infinity War, the beginning, okay, cool. And so now there's a whole TV show about him, and Marvel's doing this because guess what? There's also a whole movie about Black Widow, so they like talking about that. And with this show, we don't know much except that the last time we saw Loki was in Endgame when our heroes went back to 2012 with the first Avengers movie. They mess up the timeline, Loki grabs the Tesseract and vanishes. And so this show picks up on what happens when he goes through that portal. Now what? And so heading into this, there's all kinds of potential of timelines and multiverses and time manipulation and what's going to happen with all these forking timelines that are possible to happen.
So many forking timelines, I tell you.
All these mother forking timelines and this mother forking...
They would just fork off for a second and let us get on. Okay, I'm done.
And so the show has the chance to answer all of those questions. Are we going to find out? Who knows? And so that's Loki. Again, WandaVision, that was a potentially good show. It kind of had its great moments and it had its subpar moments. Falcon and the Winter Soldier collectively had a lot more misses than hits when it comes with that series. And so now what's Loki going to be? Is it going to be better than the other two? Is it going to be worse? I don't know. But if you're new to the Secondary Heroes, we're going to tell you exactly what we feel. We're not going to beat around the bush or
we don't hold
pull
back
any punches or any of that stuff.
We don't. So if you go back and you listen to our Wanda and what is it? WandaVision. I almost said Wanda and Falcon Winter Soldier. If you listen to all of those, you'll really get a good taste of who we are because, man, did we just rip those shows through the mud.
We have a high standard and quality for Marvel.
It's true. I'm just wondering if this show is going to hold up to the TV Marvel or to the movie Marvel, film Marvel.
So we'll start with our spoiler-free reviews in the first few minutes, and then we're going to go episode by episode for all 6 of these episodes. So join us every week. We're going to be publishing on Fridays. The show is going to air on Wednesday or Tuesday at midnight, depending on where you live in the world. And with that, afterwards, we're going to talk about our highlights and lowlights of the series of episodes and just find the points that they're doing really good, the points they're really doing bad. So, spoiler-free review time.
All right. Well, I believe this is where I come in. So, I've got to be honest with you guys and with our audience. And I'm pretty much on brand with this, but I only got to watch half the episode. Which, yes, on brand. Anyways, but...
It's half more than nothing, though.
Exactly. And I've had episodes where I've had nothing. I kind of wish I had an entire series of Falcon and Winter Soldier of nothing, but whatever. Um, I'm good. So with this show, I only saw half, but the half that I did see, I'm all in. This is it's beautiful. It's great writing. Its cinematography was phenomenal. The acting was far better because I think it's and maybe it's just the charisma of Loki or whoever played. What's the guy's name who plays Loki?
Tom
Come on,
Wilson.
thank you. The dude is solid. He is really good. Like he makes that character incredible. So out of what I saw, I'm on board. I'm all in. I like what I see, and I'm excited for more.
Well said. All right. Yeah, you
go.
just too bad you don't have one of those little time turner thingies that Owen Wilson had. You can just rewind whenever you want and stop time.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, because the DeLorean, the flux capacitor doesn't work. So if I had a Owen Wilson timey-wimey thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just throwing it out there. What about you, Trevor?
So for me, I went into this weirdly because when they first announced their whole slate of Marvel shows, Loki was one of the highlights on there. I was like, okay, that's cool. Because as soon as that happens in Endgame where he goes with the Tesseract, you're like, what is that going to mean? Because they already talked about messing up timelines in Endgame and all that potential.
Right.
So that's really exciting. I like Tom Hiddleston as Loki. He does a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
I'm waiting
but
for
then
the plot.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out and it kind of ruined my excitement. And I was like, well, I don't know what Marvel's doing with their TV shows. Do they even have an overarching, like, someone who, like, they have an overarching vision, but do they have someone who looks at shows with a critical eye and tells people this is bad? Because it seems like they're almost in this bubble where, oh, this is great, and everybody's just patting everybody on the back and no one's holding themselves to a higher standard. So it had me kind of worried. So now I go and watch the show. And it's a really good show. I know this show for all 6 episodes is going to be good. You can tell there's just so many things instantly. You see the dialogue's really well written. The acting is outstanding. I mean, Tom Hiddleston, there's a whole sequence where he doesn't say one word and he conveys every single emotion that you would expect from Loki and what he's going through in this scenario. And then the overarching set design as well as the cinematography of the world they've created, it's really good. It's like they took the best elements of WandaVision and they didn't make it as ambiguous at the outset like WandaVision did, and then kind of just focused. There's still some grittiness to it, even though it's this weird time realm. There's like a gravitas to the setting and the discussions they're having.
Sure. Well said.
Wow, that
as
was
for
way
me,
better said than what I said. Jeez.
it was very eloquent. I enjoyed that very much. I don't even feel like I need to say much. Other than I kind of agree with you both. I mean, I love the episode. I knew I was going to go into this really liking it, but I wasn't too sure what the tone was going to be like, and what the storyline itself was going to entail. And I really like that this is going to be yet another character-driven story, which is what they seem to be doing more with the TV shows, whereas the films were very plot-heavy. And I just really enjoy that. And to what you both said, man, I think just all around, it felt more succinct as an episode versus anything we got from the previous 2 series. And I say that because I love WandaVision, but WandaVision had its faults. And I feel like this show doesn't have those same pratfalls that show seemed to display. So I'm kind of excited to see where this goes.
Well,
It's intriguing. It's different.
Yeah, the cool thing about this show is this felt like Marvel. This felt like what Marvel
Between
has
the
given
3
us.
shows, yes.
Yeah.
This felt more
WandaVision,
cinematic than all 3.
Right. WandaVision,
Even though it
not
was
so much.
fine. Yeah. It
Yeah,
wasn't like it was a grand scale necessarily, but it felt more cinematic.
It did. It had that feel of, and I'm wondering if they shot it the same way that they did Mandalorian with one of those LED screens, because there were some scenes where I'm like, there's no way that guy's all the way out in some desert right now wearing like 18 layers of leather. There's
Yeah,
no
I think
way.
nowadays if I see scenes like that, I'm like, I'm not gonna believe it anymore. I'm like, no, that's
Right.
great, but I don't believe you. I'm sure you filmed a location. Sure you did. It's like,
But it was, yeah. And the thing was the cinematography. I think that really it rounded the whole thing together, because even when they go into this timey-wimey area, like, it felt, I don't know, there was something real. It felt real and cool. With Falcon and Winter Soldier, they were in real places, and I never felt real.
I agree. Yeah, I feel you there. I think it's the mise en scene, as they say in film. It's the whole thing coming together really works. It makes it feel believable. From set designs, from costumes, everything, lighting.
Lighting was really important in this show.
Just great.
Sure. Even look at the scene behind you. The scene behind you is, I mean, it's lit awesome. I don't know.
If you're watching on YouTube, it's when Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston are in the interrogation room.
Having their therapy session. Wow.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Much
You're
better than another therapy session we saw.
Yes. All right, so we should probably spoil this soon, but before we do, we should probably do some shout outs and mentions and such and such.
Oh, is this me, or do you guys want to take it? Okay, I'll do it. Hey, you can check us out over on crossthestreamsmedia.com for links to all of our social medias. That's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. You can also listen to every one of our episodes on that site, and you can leave a review and a voicemail, which is always very, very cool. Oh, also go on to our Twitter, because we have merch, and you can DM us to, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see one of our stickers that we offer on as our merch. But yeah, again, we are on every social site at Secondary Heroes. On YouTube at Secondary Heroes. So leave a comment below. We love to read your comments and answer anything that you guys have to say. We want to hear what you guys actually think about these shows that we watch and that we're reviewing and whatnot. And like I said, if you actually want to be heard on our podcast, like our Friends episode, we actually had 2 voicemails. Leave us a voicemail. We'll play them if we like what you have to say, that is, if you agree with us. But yeah, again, you could do the voicemail thing at crossthestreamsmedia.com. And check out some of the other shows on there. There's some really good ones. There's the Movie Gap, 3 Beers and a Mic, the Dan Aykroyd podcast, 4 Dorksmen, the Burt Reynolds and Charles Bronson podcast, Front Row, Burn Appetit. It's all kinds of stuff. So make sure to check out some of our friends over there. And yeah, all this is free for you. It's priceless to us, baby. All right, let's get into it.
Spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning indeed. If you haven't watched the show, pause right here. Come back after you have. Do watch this show.
Okay, guys, I'll see you then.
Oh, gee, that's right. I forgot. Don't be too literal here. Hold on. So I think before we kind of start all this, like, there's one thing that I felt kind of like when I was watching the episode, I'm like, wow, this really reminds me of something. And it took me a few minutes to put my finger on it and went, this is kind of like Rick and Morty. Like, the whole kind of feel was kind of Rick and Morty. And I looked up who produced it, and sure enough, it's the same producer of Rick and Morty. So that's why the show probably has some grounded realism in the whole timey-wimey stuff, and the humor is just juxtaposed with all the kind of the smart writing that, Rick and Morty had. So kind of cool to see that.
Oh, that is really cool. I actually did not know that.
Yeah.
And so before we do jump into this, again, spoilers, the entire show, everything is based on one thing, and that is the Time Variance Authority, TVA. And so if you're wondering, are they based in some Marvel comic book anywhere? Their first appearance was Thor number 372 in 1986. Just so you know. I went and read that comic.
And everything.
Just before we recorded, just to get an idea of what they're going to do with the show. And so number 372 of Thor is really like kind of explain kind of the time concepts they're going to use and how it's kind of the past, future, present, all that. So again, we're dealing with time, and by introducing TVA, what they did is said all those potential scenarios that Loki could have opened up, nope.
Pretty much. It's a big nope.
Oh.
Like, right off the bat, they couldn't tell you that. They're like, no, we correct all those things so they don't happen. So therefore, no. which is pretty
Well,
fun.
and that's like the whole thing that I had a problem with Endgame is these guys, all the Avengers running around in all these time, going back in time to do all this stuff. And
Yeah.
I mean, they were like, oh yeah, because that was their journey. Well, no. I felt like that was kind of an easy way out. I mean, that was probably my biggest issue was like, that was their easy way out of it.
I get you. It's not the easy way out. It's kind of how comics have always been. Well, I guess it's an easy way out because that's what comics have always done for like 130 years that comics have been around. So I'm old. I know this stuff. But this series seems to be very meta, like extremely meta, like the most meta Marvel has ever been. And I'm excited because I've been waiting for this because this is what I grew up with was all the meta stuff that came with all the big storylines. It was like you have people like the Watchers and these people and all these other celestial beings that kind of deal with time and morality and souls and like I want to dive into that, and we are finally starting to do that. It seems like I know WandaVision kind of hinted at it, not as much as I was hoping it would, but I think this is going to lead into multiverse of madness, which will. So
yes,
I'm excited for that possibility, but it is very meta.
I mean, speaking of that meta time, because if you've listened to our past shows, we went kind of scene by scene. We're not going to do that. We're going to go based on kind of just highlights and lowlights. So the whole focus of kind of the conversation between Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston is fate, destiny, choices are your own. Do you have free will? It's a whole discussion about free will in various forms. And Loki's in the understanding that he is a god. Everything is at his disposal. He decides his own fate. And Owen Wilson has experience in the TVA pretty much knowing that's not the case. He literally has timeless experience to say, I know that you're wrong. and
for
Loki
those of
has
you,
to come to terms with that.
Yeah, and for those of you at home that enjoyed that scene, there's a whole show on Netflix called Dark, which discusses this for 3 seasons, and it's fantastic. So please check it out.
If I have to hear about Dark,
I had to throw it in there once in a while. I gotta.
You're gonna make me crawl right back to watching Cheers all over again.
Remember, whatever happened.
Oh, okay.
He's dead.
Cool. So where should we start with all of this? Did you guys have? Should we go into our favorite scenes?
Yeah, we can go into like just what we like in general. I think the world building is kind of my main thing with this, and I think that's what kind of binds this all together. Is whoever helped kind of like say like this is what the entire world of the TV is going to look like. It really worked well. By stripping it of all of magic and all that kind of stuff, you have technology. It has a certain aesthetic, which is different than what we've seen in the MCU before, because everything's so magical and godlike that we don't see this kind of stuff. And it was kind of refreshing and different and new.
It's really interesting how they combine a 1970s bureaucracy with time and all these, like they can rewind time with little clickers. But then you are printing out things on old lined paper where you have to knock off the little holes on the side. It's a crazy juxtaposition.
But even the little clickers, they even had like wood grain on them that made them look like they were like straight out of the 60s or 70s.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm guessing it's whoever the architects of this world are. And I'm talking about in the show, but I'm talking about actually in the TVA itself as if it existed. Like I think those people probably watched Time forever and went, we really like this period in history and we really like this period because of this, and they kind of combined the different technologies together so it kind of had like a unique flair to it. And I think they probably like the 70s the most, it looked like.
That's why the computer looks like a old Mac computer from
I think they just kind of like that aesthetic. They're like, you know what, we're gonna be here forever, let's pick something that's kind of funny and fun or whatever.
And that's my guess. Loki does look out the window and he sees the society, and it looks like a futuristic society where there's flying cars and stuff is built on top of itself. But then within this place they're still printing out paperwork. They don't even have digital files to do these things.
Nope, no digital.
Now, at that point, did Loki say that he goes, well, this is all fake?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't.
he thought it was an illusion because that's his thing. His main thing is creating illusions for people. So he's like, "Oh, I got this one. I do this all the time. This is all an illusion." Yeah, he
It's an
found out.
illusion,
Yes.
Michael.
It's an
That's
illusion,
right.
my Trixifer. Trixifer, what is it? Horse?
Yeah. Anyways,
Oh, I love that.
so yes, that's why he thought it was an illusion. He's like, "There's no way this could possibly be real." And for anyone out there that's a real film buff, like to me, looking when he looked out at the city, like this whole area reminded me a lot of the film Brazil, but also had kind of a Kubrick
my
vibe
God.
to it, as if Kubrick had directed Brazil for some reason. It was really cool. I liked it.
That is
The
so
architecture.
bonkers that you just brought up Brazil, because I just recently listened to a podcast where they were talking about the movie Brazil, and I'm like, well, this sounds really interesting, but I don't think I'll ever watch it.
You will never watch it, and you'll be confused by it, but it is fantastic. It's a great movie with
that's
a really, really super happy ending.
Wink.
So, anyways,
Well, when I looked out that window, my first thought was, that's Walt Disney's vision of Celebration Town. That's what he wanted for Celebration, like his own little Disney paradise thing. And I was like, oh, that's kind of good. Like whenever you're on the People Mover at Disney and they have, this is Walt Disney's look of the future. And I don't know why, but like that window reminded me of looking into Walt Disney's look of the future. I know it's not spot on. I know that it's super red, but that's just what I saw. So yeah, I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's nice. Anyway, that's what I liked about this show, was that the whole look and feel and the ambiance. And
oh yeah,
what about
can
you
even
guys?
see the light, like when he's in the lines to go get his little ticket and stuff. You can see, the fluorescent bulbs, shading and shadowing the room. It
Yeah,
almost looks like there's a
nice.
smoke in the air.
Yeah, the low key lighting was really nice in that scene.
this is gonna happen a lot with this show. I love it. Don't stop.
Yeah.
Get it.
Yeah, sorry, it's time to move on from that.
So we are also introduced to Owen Wilson as Agent Mobius, and they talked up Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan's rapport way before Captain Falcon came out. And
yeah.
Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston have a really good rapport. When
Like,
they're
right off the
firing
bat.
off back and forth, like right away, where he says something like, whatever path I choose, I choose whatever path I go. And he's like, oh, that'll make a great t-shirt. They're just like,
He's like, because like you have one who's like high concept and the other one who's like very grounded and kind of quieter, and like the straight man of the bunch. Is really good.
So
I
good.
liked it. Yes. It's just so over the top. Like, because you have to remember, this is not the Loki that we know at Endgame when he dies. He's not the redeemed, Loki. He is the I'm going to be a supervillain and take over the universe Loki. So he's all up in that business, like being all crazy and kooky. So it's really fun to have him, put together with Owen Wilson's character in this.
Well, and it's fun seeing him be, I am God, and just be put right in his place almost every time he does it. It's great. It's fun to see.
and he says it's so underhanded because Loki's getting louder and louder each time and more belligerent, and he's just even keel, like, nope.
Yep. It's like, oh, wow.
Oh, wow, you got loud. I'm sorry.
Wow, sorry. Yeah. Owen Wilson has some really great whisper moments, like his classic whisper moments that he always does is really great. Especially when he talks to the judge. It's like, oh, you look really good up there, looking down on me.
I like you looking down on me. But that's the thing, is like you throw someone like that in this movie, and I feel like he can have chemistry with anybody that's on screen. Like he's gonna be able to have a rapport with everybody that he's with, and he makes the scene a little bit better.
You said movie. This does feel like a movie, doesn't it?
I noticed it too, Frog.
But that I said movie?
You said movie.
Yeah, it's just interesting.
Yeah.
Well, because it felt like an actual film. Right. The other BS that we watched just felt like, I don't know, I felt like I was watching the WB.
Fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
Fair, yeah. To say it. As much as I love WandaVision, like the second half of that season was very WB or CW-ish. So, yeah. unfortunately.
Man, I almost just went off on another rant about WandaVision,
Don't-
but it's like
don't.
we can't. We've
No,
already
we're
done it.
focused
Hurt
on
my
Loki.
baby.
Yeah,
That's
focus-
my show. Do not do it. Do not.
So one shout out with the design aesthetic and the time period is the animation of Miss Minutes,
Yeah.
who's
Oh,
voiced by
Miss-
Tara Strong, and that is a great sequence to explain the world. Like Frog mentioned, world building. They set up this whole thing in this episode and still have time to have extensive dialogue portions, but they create what the TVA is and what it means really quickly and succinctly with that awesome, friendly 70s style animation.
And it was fun. Like they didn't have to bore you with some like, oh, here's what's happening. It's like, no, here's this fun little animation, character and scene as that great accent that she has. Oh, it's great.
Well, and it felt like we were standing in a queue for a Disney line, or like a
Exactly.
Disney or like a Universal type of line where
Welcome
you
to
get this little.
Frontierland.
Yeah,
Welcome,
exactly.
everybody. Here's what we're gonna do. Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure you guys got the same feels as I did, but it reminded me of DNA from Jurassic
Yes.
Park.
Oh, very well
Mr.
done.
DNA.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He explains
Yeah.
everything really well.
the dinosaurs.
When you have high concept DNA, you have to make a fun, friendly animation to explain
Animation.
Yep,
Oh,
exactly.
so good, man. Yeah, and the animation with it too, it didn't feel out of place. That was the cool part about it, because it almost like it's like it cuts off all the real people and goes straight into a cartoon, and the cartoon is what you're watching for the next 5 to 10 minutes, and I mean, it all makes sense. It works perfectly. It's seamless. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
It fit the
just-
mold really well.
Yes.
Well said.
And we got to find out about the timekeepers,
And
who
they
Loki
are.
dismisses at the start, and then by the end of the episode, he realizes how much power this place actually has. So one of the fun parts at the end is that Loki is able to escape his interrogation and his predicament because that's what he's really good at.
So he does, of course.
And he realizes that the Tesseract doesn't work. And then the low-level guy who's welcomes people, he's like, "Is that an Infinity Stone?" And then there's a whole drawer has these Infinity Stones. He's
It's
like, "Oh
like
yeah, some people
everywhere.
use them as paperweights."
like
and it
junk
just
in the drawer.
it dismisses every power structure that Loki knows are just in the drawer of some entry-level guy in this place.
Great beat moment. Like
Oh my god.
to be like, yeah, they have no power at all. They're just nothing.
Oh yeah, we go through these all the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, okay, so what is the Tesseract and what does it do?
So the
Just-
Tesseract
Just give me a summary real quick. Give me the cliff notes.
is basically like the embodiment of one of the Infinity Stones that they are able to extract from it. It deals with space, so you
It's
can
the
go from
space
one
stone.
place to another. It's how he's able to travel through space really quickly.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all I need.
It's
Because
powerful.
I've seen the Tesseract in many, many, many movies, but I've never really seen anybody do anything with it. But it was like they're constantly trying to keep it, hold on to it or whatever.
Well,
and
when
it's
Thanos
like,
snaps and he goes from where he's stomping Hulk all the way over to where the Collector, and then he goes to Wakanda. It's just that's using the Space Stone.
okay.
Did you see that cloud that went around him when
Yes.
Loki puffed out? That's him moving through space. So he moved
So
through space
that's
to
the
the
Tesseract.
desert. And
Dude,
went,
okay.
Right.
Trash.
And then
right.
Captain Marvel's
Or-
powered by the Space Stone, right?
yes, so that thing, it gave her the powers.
Yeah.
I have the power. That's another show. Sorry. Anyways.
Oh, let's not review that. I don't really want to.
No, we won't. It's okay. Leave that up to other people. But the fun thing about these keepers, these timekeepers, is that they don't really deal with the morality of stuff. It's more like just staying true to the flow of time, which is another point that Brink comes up. It's like, well, what if someone does a bad thing or a good thing? Like, how do you make that decision? And Owen Wilson's character Mobius goes, oh, that's, and he doesn't mention who it is that deals with that, right? Who is that
Mobius.
person? Like, ooh, maybe.
Well,
Or maybe it's
God,
God,
interesting.
like,
Get into
somebody
this
else.
again.
he also brings up the Department of Nightmare, and he's like, "Oh, you can go burn that down." But
Oh,
again,
yeah.
with,
That was a
Nightmare
great-
also has a wink connection to Doctor Strange and what WandaVision could have potentially led to.
Exactly. There's
Good
that.
So,
Yeah, so we're doing big scale. Like this show, like Captain Falcon is very small in scope. It's, moving Captain America's shield on.
right.
This is big, big celestial things, like the whole overarching fabric of the universe. This
Yeah.
isn't just like crimes on Earth. This is a big thing.
Yeah, the fun thing about the animation is that it tells you exactly like what could possibly happen, right? It shows the little guy venturing off to his own little timeline, and then if something else happens, it can branch out, and you have all these different timelines, and you have a multiverse
Of
colliding and
madness.
fighting with each other of madness. So yeah, that's very telling of what could happen. Like who
Oh,
might be
man.
the person to cause this madness to happen?
Well,
Sure,
speaking of that, in that animation, they also mention it would take a Nexus event.
they did. I saw that.
They specifically said Nexus event, and
It's
we've
like
had
all
a
those things
show
we talked about in
about a
WandaVision is now
Nexus
happening here.
character.
Why
Sorry.
can't they talk about
Catch
this
me
in
up, guys.
WandaVision?
So to catch you up, Wanda is a Nexus capable being, and to mess up the timelines that the Timekeepers, it would take a Nexus event, and so Wanda's gonna be in Doctor Strange. So it's likely that she's gonna cause some Nexus event to rupture the very fabric of everything, and Doctor Strange is gonna have to put it back together.
Whoa.
Pretty much. My guess
I
is she
know
is going
Kung
to
Fu.
study the Darkhold and going to be like, oh, cool, this is how I can get my kids back and find
Yep.
them in a different dimension. And when she does that and reaches out, it goes everywhere.
Yep, she's gonna mess everything up by getting Billy and Tommy back.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. So there you go, Alex.
Thank you.
Boom, Nexus
Catching me
event.
up. Nexus event.
Yeah.
Now, do you think Loki's gonna make an appearance in Madness of Time? I mean, you would think he would have to.
Madness of time.
Time
Yeah.
of Madness.
As
Doctor
I'm watching the
Strange
show, I
appearance?
was wondering that question. I was like, I could see
Oh.
them doing that, but they would have to keep it way under wraps.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he will. That's my guess. I think this is his story, and I don't think he's going to be involved in that at all. He'll
It's just-
probably hear about it, I'm sure, but I don't think it's going to have anything to do with that.
Like, you think something might happen in the background of this show that will be like,
Oh, yes.
Interestingly, we did mention Mephisto. There's a stained glass back in France in
Right.
1549, and
I know,
we point
it's-
directly to the devil. That's
devil.
this little kid is like, oh, this is who did it. It's the devil. And the interesting thing about the devil's Mephisto is that this one particularly is wearing all green. And Loki is cast in all green, and he also has gold horns rather than like the devil's usually depicted with more like black or brown horns.
right.
So it's really interesting to use Loki
Wearing
colors
red,
on this
too.
Mephisto.
Yeah, it's not Mephisto. It was just a fun little nod. It's obviously, as we find out in the end of the episode, spoiler alert, it's Loki.
It's Loki.
But yeah.
At
Oh, that's right. You
end
didn't
of-
watch it, Alex. I forgot.
I haven't
damn.
seen the
Tell
end of
you.
it. No. But here's the thing:
Mhm.
it's never going to be Mephisto. It's never going to be,
No,
and
probably
it's so sad.
not. I know.
I
I might
just
make
now-
it in Secret Invasion.
Maybe there are scrolls in this episode. If you look really quickly in the beginning, a scroll is being brought in the very, very, very beginning of the episode. So there's a scroll, and there is Peggy Carter. She shows up real quick. I wonder what she's doing there.
I now have questions about what was that scroll doing, screwing up time? Like what kind of timey stuff?
Who
was
is he
doing?
pretending to be in history, right?
Right, or the guy who got completely vaporized. Like he just looked like a delivery
Schmuck.
pizza boy.
Yeah, who was that guy?
And all of a sudden he's like vaporized. It's like, well, what did he do to even get to this point?
Yeah, I don't know. He kinda
It's
looks
not
like
even the scale of things. That's what's so interesting. When the animation's talking, we're not like stopping people from destroying the universe. We're
Right.
literally just talking about people who are gonna mess up things for other people. That like even unintentionally.
Right.
Because again, they mentioned, oh, the Avengers, that was meant to happen. Because Loki goes to the defense of, well, they did it, so whatever I'm doing is not that bad. It's the little kid defense of, oh, did you skip school? Well, Tommy skipped school
Well,
too.
yeah.
That's not a defense.
It was cute.
Senior skip day.
But
Yep.
the
Went to the
Avengers had to do that. That was set out in the timeline that the timekeepers were setting. That they were going to mess up time, but it's okay because we knew they were going to mess up time, and it's okay because we know that Captain America is somehow going to fix time. Though he might use Peggy to help him fix time somehow.
Right, we could. I mean, she is there somewhere in
Yeah.
the building. She got brought in for questioning, so who knows what's
I don't
going
know.
on.
I guess for me that whole thing was a little. That was probably the only part where I was like, meh. Just because it was almost like.
Well, no, they're just overseeing time though. They're not time
Right.
cops.
But they are time cops. They literally like are
Not
arresting
really.
people who
Not
are
really.
moving
They're more
time.
they're multi-dimensional cops. Think of them that way.
Well, it's not
Not
even
time.
cops though, because cops enforce a particular justice. This is more like they're just guards where they need to
Yes, well
protect
said.
it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Sure.
It's interesting because you get the whole idea of time, but they literally forked time and then they unforked it all at once.
Oh,
You know, it has an interesting tie to The Good Place too, because The Good Place, the show brings the whole idea of the afterlife into a bureaucratic system. So it's
Yep.
really
Same
has
idea,
a similar
kinda
vibe.
here.
Yeah.
I like it. It's fun. It's playful.
and they've got the whole
Good Place
forking
dives
thing.
into some really good philosophical discussions.
As
Watch The
does
Good
this
Place.
show. There you go.
I started it and I couldn't get past the first season, so maybe I need to go back and revisit.
There you
Darn
go.
it. Because all I've heard is good things, so.
And so we did mention Oklahoma at the very end of this episode.
Oklahoma. Sorry. Yeah.
They don't bust into song.
They don't.
Sadly,
Darn it.
there's no singing in this episode.
I know. What the heck?
Or our episode, so let's move on.
And
I mean,
so
we could. It's not too late.
the one realization that Loki gets, they set up, Owen Wilson sets up the idea that I'm hunting this one guy. He's killed 6 people in the past week. He's going through time to do it. And he sets up, dun dun dun, it's you. So we get to
funny.
find
It's
out
like,
that it actually.
it's you. He says. I'm like, I know he's gonna say you. Obviously. What else is it gonna be?
And then at the end, we get to see. We don't actually see Loki do this, but it's pretty brutal that they're in Oklahoma in this field and they're like, oh, it smells like oil. And the agent guys are like, oh, don't worry. It's no big deal. This guy's just going back in time to make money or whatever. And then we see this hooded figure on this bench, all covered, shrouded in fog.
And it's
then
the
he
Green
lights
Lantern.
He lights up and burns
What?
these guys all alive. And then he just stands there with his shadowy hooded figure. It's a pretty brutal sequence. And it shows
Birds
what
alive and
position
scream
this,
and everything. Like, oh.
this time traveling Loki's doing. And then it makes you wonder, because the idea of the TVA was just to reset Loki. So he's reset back on his original timeline. It's nothing changed. So by not doing that, it makes you wonder if it still does mess up the timeline, because there's this other Loki now who's going through time and killing people.
And he's not just another Loki. He's specifically, they'd use the term variant.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be. Now my guess when I heard that was, oh, are they finally doing like the real alternate versions of these characters? Could it be Lady Loki possibly? Because they don't show this, just a hood. I mean, that could be a man or a woman. So it could be Lady Loki showing up in the next episode. And that would be
Oh.
exciting to see.
See, it's stuff like
That's
this,
two
Prague.
variants.
It's stuff like
Prague
this.
does this, and he
We-
gets
we-
out.
I know, I'm sorry.
I
I
get
don't wanna
all
ruin it for you,
excited.
it's
I
just not
get,
gonna
okay,
be.
time to do some research. I'm going to learn about these characters.
You're all
And guess
excited
what
for it,
happens?
And nothing happens.
And then
Nothing.
next episode, it's regular Loki, and it's just a future version of
It's
himself.
just a
that's
future
talking right
version.
now.
And I become so disappointed.
Sorry. I won't mention
Don't be sorry. Keep doing it because it's fun.
All
But at the same time, fork you.
So back to the rest of the meat of the episode, which is that therapy session. I think that's kind of the most important part of the episode. Obviously not the main plot, but it's going to be the main kind of theme for this is Loki as a person. What's his soul? Like, who is he? Why does he do what he does? And there's just so much to take in with his scene with Owen Wilson in that interrogation room.
Yeah, both of them, because it's split up too.
Yeah, it's split up.
I think the best part is Loki talking about the theory of freedom, or the biggest lie that everyone bought into, that freedom was actual thing, that every decision, no matter what it is, comes with regret and uncertainty, except for him, because he said almost every living creature, and Owen Wilson particularly points out, so you don't mean you don't think you're included in that group.
Right. He's
Because
like,
Loki has a very basic core understanding of self, but he still thinks his self is better than everyone else.
right, and how can he be the god of mischief if everything is predetermined? That's not mischief anymore.
Right.
That's mischief managed
Oh,
at that point.
wow.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So all of this comes about because Owen Wilson's character shows him the story of his life, but also shows him the story of the rest of his life that he didn't get to see because at this point he isn't the redeemed one. So he gets to watch everything, including the fact that he was responsible, potentially, in this for killing his own mother. So that was kind of really soul crushing for him
And one
because
of
that
the
was
best Marvel movies there is, Thor
which is weird.
2.
So they keep doing this. They keep taking the movies that no one really liked and making them meaningful later. It's like, oh, okay, well, no one really liked that movie, so let's make it really mean something now. So
Let's make it really mean something so people have to go back and rewatch just to
yes,
remember these type of
exactly.
things.
Mm-hmm.
Or they are gearing towards
Don't.
people like me who just haven't seen Thor 2.
Just don't, because I watched it recently because everyone kept saying, oh, it's not as bad as you remember it. No, it is. It's actually probably worse. It's
It
pretty
seems
bad.
like a trend on the internet that everything isn't as bad as you
Right?
remember, but
Oh
it
no, it
is.
really is.
Every single time, it is. There's not one that was like, oh, you know what? Perspective. No.
Right. No, it's not.
There's a reason things suck, and it's because they suck.
Anyways, so he gets all sad and mopey about that and doesn't like it, and yeah, he doesn't like the fact that he gets killed by the person that he thought he was in cahoots with. He was betrayed by
Yeah, that's why
Thanos.
this episode's titled Glorious Purpose. Because
Mhm.
he's like predestined by Thanos to rule Midgard and Earth. While Thanos is ruling the whole universe, you can have Earth, you'll be the whole king of Earth. That's his promise. And then he sees what we've all seen in Endgame or Infinity War, where Thanos kills Loki.
Yep. So
And so
end
Loki
of
comes to
file.
that realization. Yeah, End of File is also very jarring because so Loki watches a lot of that future, what we see in Thor Ragnarok and all of his kind of betterment by himself. Owen Wilson isn't
Yeah.
there when he's watching this. He gets to find this all out himself.
Yeah, he scrubs through his whole file. He's like, I don't want to see it. I'm gonna see everything. I don't know if I want to see everything in my future,
It
but
makes you that's like the core question. If you could see your whole timeline, would you want to? It's that thing. Would
Yes.
you rather know how you're gonna die or not know?
Absolutely.
no.
No. Would you like to
I
know
would
when you're
not.
gonna die?
Yeah, why not? Because if
Ah,
I'm going to die in like 10 years, I want to make sure that I live my life up.
I don't know.
It's
I mean, technically, it wouldn't matter for him because, like, what they should do, they're not probably not going to now because Owen Wilson wants to take him on his adventure to hunt him down. Was to just bring him back to his timeline and obliterate the timeline, take one of those pods and reset the timeline, and he would never know what his future is, and he would just continue on his destiny to be killed by Thanos.
Well,
Yep.
let's ask the our viewers. What do you guys think? Do you guys want to know your end game?
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Frog. Because I'm actually curious. I mean, you guys both say no, and I'm all on board. I think it would be fun, but I don't know.
Well,
I'm
especially since they
interested.
can't control it, because that's what they tell you. You can't change it. It's like,
Right. If you can't control it, then why not just know it?
Well, a lot of people you can't tell because they would try to change it, and that would end up causing what happens. I mean, we've seen that in movies countless times.
like Lost, like a certain character on Lost. He kept trying to, and it's inevitable.
That's
Gonna die.
another show that I just could not get into. But
That's
we've
okay.
talked about that before.
Yes. All right. What else should we talk about in this
Well,
episode?
after that whole vision, or not
Mhm.
vision, seeing the future, Owen Wilson does come back, and Loki's now down on his whole idea of himself, and he says, "I don't really enjoy killing people." He comes to his full-on self-awareness that he does that because
Right.
he perceives himself as weak, and it's a way to show power even when you're in fear. It's to create fear to mask your own weakness.
It's a great scene.
Wow.
Great
Yeah.
scene. It's a
Yeah.
really like mental paradigm shift for Loki
Mm.
in that moment. To go, okay. It's really, I don't know. it's kind of crazy to see him brought down so far down
Quickly.
so fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
Wilson really
like
got
again, the Loki we know, it took him like I don't know 6 movies or something.
to finally get to that point.
It took
Kind
one
of.
episode.
Yeah.
When it took Owen Wilson, it
Yep.
literally took one of the
Man, the
old,
myth, the legend. From there
one of the
on.
Wilson brothers.
Yeah.
Come on
just a
in.
little bit of whispering. Yeah. Oh, nice.
Oh wow, you killed that guy.
Yeah.
And he jokes about psychobabble too, but that's really what this show nails.
Yeah. It really did a good job of it. Man, there's a lot of good humor in this episode too.
Surprising amount of humor for. So this is kind of one of my like detractors from Falcon and the Winter Soldier is they had really insightful, interesting topics, and then they would just peel out after 2 minutes. This show keeps going. They just hang on the line and they keep going through the dialogue and they go layers and deeper rather than being like, here's a cool topic. Oh, look, here's something else.
Yeah, look, shiny object. Okay.
Squirrel.
Well, and that's another thing too with this one is it has a layer of comedy, but it doesn't feel like it's forced comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Like Falcon and Winter Soldier, every bit of comedy in that show was forced.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if it was nice feeling this almost natural like comedy coming out of these two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For such a heavy-handed show and still adding a good amount of giggles.
Yeah, it never felt forced. And as I said, I think it's a tribute to the producer of Rick and Morty. He has that same, gravitas with his, material in that show. Because they really dive into some crazy topics. Like, there's some really dark stuff that happens in that series. And then there's still, like, all the funny, gag humor, of course.
Yeah.
But it's not about that, right? It's really, you're kind of making fun of the people that, like, laugh at just the fart jokes. It's like, no, it's deeper than that. Like, have a deeper, meaningful laugh. Put some weight behind it, and this show does that really well.
Yeah.
It makes fun of what it's talking about.
Yeah.
It can talk about deep things and make fun of it simultaneously. It's really delicate balance to walk, and they pulled it off. And to Alex's point right at the start, or even probably you both said, the scale's not that much. There's literally just a few rooms. That's all that we see in this whole thing. They go through a couple different rooms, and that's it. But it still feels big and like a lot's happening.
Yeah, it's the weight of it all, time. It's all of time. It's a lot to sink in, really. So anyway.
I have my fingers crossed. I think it might be too much of a reach, but I really would love for this to happen.
Okay.
One of the time gods, time lords, or whatever is Christopher Lloyd. Just how fun would that be? How fun would that be if one of the Time Lords was Christopher Lloyd?
Well, the question is, will we ever really get to see them? I don't know.
Well, and I thought they were like lizard people or something like that.
They're
I think
lizard people.
Yeah.
He could still be in prosthetics or something.
Of course. Well, he was in prosthetics in Star Trek, so let's do it again.
Yeah, there you go. So there is an aspect, and I didn't have time to look up the name of the movie because I can't remember it. But there's that film that Jimmy had recommended to me to watch, that really weird time movie thing that I watched. Sorry, I can't remember the name of it, but they do the same thing in this show that they do in that film. Where time kind of skips and people are stuck in a loop and stuff. And there's a character in that, like probably one of the darkest moments of that film is the guy who keeps going through the same loop over and over again, like over and over and over and over and over, like forever, for eternity. And it's like, oh my God, just kill me. Like, oh my. And that happens in this with the guard when he takes the time winder and he keeps rewinding her. And she's like, please stop it, as she's winding through time over and over and over again. I'm like, that's pretty messed up. Like, it's funny. Like, it's a great gag, but it's really dark. Like,
that wasn't that Stephen King 11/22/63 or something.
Not Stephen King. No, it was like some low budget movie, independent movie that came out like in the early 2000s, I think. Watched it on Amazon.
So like a hyper quick time loop, not like a Russian doll, like one day time loop.
Right, exactly. Like the guy kept going over and over and over. Like he would see himself and realize what's happening. Go, oh God, it's gonna happen again. Oh my God, it's gonna happen again. Like it's like over and over. Like, oh,
that sounds awful.
Right? Oh my God.
It's a horrible existence. Yeah.
Yep, pretty much.
And the guard, she's the sister in Lovecraft Country. It took me a while to place her, but yeah.
Yeah, she was pretty fun. Not as intimidating, like she's physically intimidating, but like she's like a big cuddly teddy bear. I don't know. I don't know if it really take you as some like mean, cop person, but all right.
The 1/16th speed punch at the start was pretty good.
Oh yeah, but you're feeling it all in real time.
That's some
that was pretty cool. But it's almost like they told him, okay, for this, we're gonna need you to go.
I'm guessing they probably had like a blower in his mouth, like one of those.
Oh yeah, okay, blowers. That makes sense.
I'm pretty sure that's what they did. That was great. It was a great effect, though.
Yeah, it looked fantastic.
But the start had some good fun too.
Yeah.
When he gets his clothes just like zapped off, where he's like, is that the robot thing?
Yeah.
He's like, this is like Asgardian leather. Yeah.
Not anymore.
And then he goes down to the next floor and he tells him, "Is this everything you've ever said? Sign this, please." And he says, "What?" And another page has to print out. The guy's like, "This guy."
This guy. There's always that one guy every week.
Well, then there's the little guy who's like, "Do you perceive yourself to have a soul?" and all that stuff, which I felt was interesting because they're still playing with the whole like souls and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just that's the type of interesting things.
Say it's very meta.
And then he says, "I'm not a robot, but what if I am?" Right before he steps in and he has a chance to be killed, he's like, "Wait, what if I am?"
How would I know?
Don't worry, you'll be dead.
Goes, yeah, what happens if I am part robot? Oh, it'll melt your insides. Oh, okay.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Well, how much you can do about it now? You gotta walk through it anyways. So, yeah, that was pretty funny. But to the meta point, to the whole idea of soul, to the whole idea of who is the person, like my theory on this is kind of one that a lot of people have talked about it with Marvel for a long time, is that maybe Stan Lee is the person because he is the writer, and whoever is the writer at the time is really God because they're the ones creating the characters. They're the ones that say what they do, right? So it's a very meta. There's a lot of meta stuff that happens.
That's like that. I saw one Stan Lee quote was trending recently, and they asked him, "Oh, who do you think will win between Spider-Man and Wolverine? Or who do you think will win between Hulk and Iron Man?" He's like, "You know who's going to win? Whoever the writer decides is going to win."
All said. Yeah, that's all it is. It's like it's all make believe. It's all in our heads. Like, have fun with it. It's whoever they decide that day. It's like, oh, that day I'm like, oh well, I think Hulk is stronger than Captain America today, so he's going to win in this battle. It's all it is. It's the person who's writing the story.
You said it perfectly. Have fun with it. Like, yes. I felt like they didn't have fun with Falcon and Winter Soldier. It didn't feel fun at all. This, I feel like they're starting to have fun again. Like, it feels fun. I don't know. I'm really intrigued what's to come with this show now.
WandaVision was having fun, and then something happened midway. Like, I don't know if they started watching the first 3 episodes and executives were like, "No, you can't do this," but something changed. There was a skip in WandaVision where they went from having fun to wrapping up in a certain number of episodes.
I think it was in the behind the scenes portion where they said that they had to take some time off because of the pandemic and come back and film some scenes. So I think there were some constraints that went into trying to rush through maybe some of those final episodes, because that final episode was filmed like just a week before the finale. They had to like rush through it and kind of get it all done. So maybe they wanted to reach more. Not too sure, but I felt the same thing.
Well, I felt like anytime that they were outside of the bubble it was almost like, okay, we're kind of losing. We're starting to lose, which is interesting because when I watched it, I really enjoyed all the outside of the bubble stuff. But then I look back at the whole show and I'm like, well, shoot, everything inside the bubble is tons of fun. I don't know. We've already discussed WandaVision. Yeah, we don't need to go back.
That gets into Loki though, because in the time variant place, that was really good. But now it looks like they're going to have this, we're going on a mission to find this other Loki, time parallel. Like, we're going to be like buddy cops, but one's always trying to escape. And are we going to do that? Are we still going to have... Because the bubble right now, the time is pretty good. But if we go to this whole sequence of just hunting down another Loki, and they always get away each episode, that's not very interesting of a show.
Right.
Yeah,
And
That's
that's
been
where
done
I
a
wanted
million
to ask.
times.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys, what are your thoughts on where do you see this show going in the future, or not in the future, but next week?
next episode. No, I feel like it. I had the same idea as Trevor. I think that's kind of where it's going to go. But I do know that people press were given the first 2 episodes, and they weren't allowed to say anything that happens. But they did say that the second episode is really the needle scratch. So maybe there is a whole new thing that we haven't seen yet that's going to change the flow of the narrative.
See, when
That's
I
my
hear
guess.
needle scratch, I'm thinking, oh, great.
It could be
just
bad. It
comes
could
to
be
a
good. Right. Who
come
knows?
to a screeching halt.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, they need to maintain. Even if you go on, say you're hunting Loki, you could still go into like the ideas of self because he's chasing himself. You could still dive into that really deeply without it just being action and like, oh, they're always one step ahead. Oh my god, they just went through a portal. Oh, they just jumped through time. Like that. I don't want that show.
Yeah, I could see that.
So I'm nervous. Because
Man, now
they
you're
have a
making
very
me nervous.
promising setup.
At the beginning of this episode, I was like, I'm all in. And now I'm like, oh, crud.
Well, maybe it's good to lower your expectations a bit.
That's
so
a
you can
good
have
call.
fun with the show. So I'll do that.
And so, do you think that they're going to bring Loki back into modern timeline? Or do you think he is dead after Infinity War?
I don't know. I think this is it for him. I think this is his story. And this is maybe the end of it, like wherever we get to the end, and then maybe a different character, a different actor takes the mantle of a Loki variant of some kind.
Lady Loki.
That's my guess. Lady Loki, or somebody else. I don't know.
I don't know, like, because I guess it depends how on Tom Hiddleston wants to be with this character. Because there's a bunch of Loki fans, and they were disappointed in the way they just tossed him away.
Right.
He didn't really get any closure or wrap up. Like, it completed his like redemption arc because he essentially sacrificed himself, but that sacrifice didn't really help that much.
No, it didn't save anybody, right? Like, he didn't even sacrifice himself to save like a people.
So you could argue that he gave Hulk enough time to be transported back by Heimdall, but that was more Heimdall's sacrifice than it was Loki's sacrifice. So a lot of people were disappointed. So to give him 6 more episodes to kind of identify who he is as a person, because you could go that, oh, they're going to tie him back in because in Marvel no one's ever really dead. Or you could go with the idea that he realizes who he is as a person and is satisfied with the decision he makes for Thanos to kill him. And that's, he resets himself essentially.
Like I'm imagining
that could be really dark and sad too.
I'm imagining
I know, I
the
kind of like
last
that.
scene
I like that.
where he's like, okay, we're all done. Him and Owen Wilson. Owen Wilson's like, okay, we're all done. I'm gonna send you back. And like, they almost have like this moment of like where they start tearing up a little bit, and then the smoke engulfs them, and it goes right back to
snap back to reality. Oops.
There goes Loki.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, Owen Wilson, his character Mobius, is a big fan of Loki. Like, he's been watching him through the timelines, and he really likes him. So now he gets to be his friend too. It's like,
maybe he gives him the choice, or even they kill off Mobius too,
right?
And he drops the little thing to reset himself, and Loki picks it up, and he pushes it himself.
Oh wow! I like that's dark and good. I like it. Do you save yourself or do you save Mobius?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, we've built this show up now. Marvel, I hope you have a good 6 episodes.
Played ourselves.
We probably are going to have some turds in there, but for the most part, I mean, I don't think they can go too wrong with what we've seen so far.
I'm interested in what they do. I know, yeah.
Well, they have me for 6 episodes. I do know that.
Well, we're recording this show, so yeah, that's the truth.
To everyone listening, are you guys excited for what Loki has in store over these next 5 episodes? Let us know on any form of social media. We'll get back to you. And
absolutely.
To everyone listening, we hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk to you next time.
Variant Prog out.
Adios, y'all.